Hey guys, I'm Dan.
And I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Burncycle by Chip Theory Games. The box is up there because it's so freaking big. This is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players.
Yep.
It says 45 minutes per player and age 14 and up, but
Ish.
you know, whatever
Yeah.
for that. It depends on how much you play co-op games, I guess. But this is kind of Bob's baby, so there's a lot here, and I think since he's furthest away from all the components, we'll have
Yes.
you explain it.
That's a good
Bob.
idea. So you're working together as these bots to try to break into these corporations, and depending on what mission you get, there's different missions for different corporations. You're going to be working your way through the buildings with your people, avoiding security or stunning them or attacking them if you can get enough action points to do so. And while you're maneuvering about and discovering things, you're going to be interacting with terminals. You're going to be doing keypad actions to try to gain access to places. And you're going to be picking up caches to get more equipments and modifications. And then also, once you're normal in the physical world, turn is done, you'll be taking a turn in the network. And this is probably my favorite part of the game, where everybody has a network strength. And then depending on what cards are in the burn cycle, which go over a little bit, you'll be moving your pings around the network, trying to hit these different hubs to either increase your strength, gain power, decrease the threat level, things like that.
Or D, all of the above.
Or yes, if you get all the way down into the middle of the mainframe, you will get to do all of those actions before being booted from the system. So the game, being called Burn Cycle, is going to be controlled through what is called the Burn Cycle. And so as you're setting up the game, everybody gets a little player mat, and everybody is going to get to choose a bot. There is a pretty good selection of them. I also have the expansion, which included a few extra bots. And then you're also going to pick a bot, and on the backside is their command module form. And so what they're going to do is they're going to start you off with 2 chips in your command cycle, and then you're also going to be able to pay power. And the nice thing about the command module is everybody can kind of pool their resources to help build that up. And it's basically just like another robot that everybody has access to help you do things. And then also it'll have these chips in the burn cycle, and those are going to be your actions you get to take. And so as you're taking your actions, you'll be sliding that little chip down the line. And if there's certain symbols on those chips there, those can help to optimize those actions. If you take the action associated with that icon, you get a boost to do that action. But you can take any action you want, depending no matter what is there. The other third chip there that Mike has is like the captain's chip. When that happens, if that's still out there, all of the guards will get to move in extra space and do stuff. You still get to take an action, but it is something that they can use to move around besides their normal turn. So once you've gone through the burn cycle and taking all the actions that you can there, that little bead will reset, and that's when you will take your actions here. Blank chips and captain chips, you'll just get to move 1 ping. But if you have a specific symbol, you'll move to that next symbol in the line, or you can always move. You have to go clockwise, but you can always move down or up if you would like, as long as you haven't hit a stop sign or the appropriate symbol. Once you've taken both those kind of turns, you're then going to degrade the burn cycle. And there's a specialty dice located here. And it's just got a 1 through 5 on it, representing those 1 through 5s. And there's a question mark. If you roll the question mark, you can degrade whatever chip you want. But say I rolled the 2, then Mike would take that 2 chip, flip it over, and basically that's a dead action. So when Dan goes to go next turn, he's only going to have 2 actions instead of 3. One of the free actions that you can take during your turn, though, is you can alter the burn cycle. And so any players will have reserve chips. Everybody gets at least 1, and you can pay power to gain extras. Plus, there'll be a team supply up there that you can choose from. And you can always swap out normal chips or usually degraded chips, because those are non-actions, for an actual action chip. And then that way you'll have that third action to use on your turn.
Degraded one.
That's right.
Ta-da.
And then, and if you notice the little symbols above the burn cycle, it's kind of hard to see from here maybe. But you can always pay more power to give yourselves more actions and increase the length of the burn cycle, which is super important.
Orange and green numbers.
Yes, but you want to be careful because if you run out of power, you run out of power. Although people can take the repair action to then send some of their power over to you and power you back up, and you're back into it. That's the main gist. I mean, there is a lot going on here,
Right.
but that's kind of
there's
like
the
the
threads, there's them pinging us.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
So
going
yeah,
on.
and so after everybody takes a turn, the corporation gets a turn, and on their turn, they're gonna get to like activate all of their security units. They're going to depending on their either if they've see somebody, they're gonna head towards them.
Yeah, I want to try to show this off. So they have like
Different
patrol
tiers.
patterns.
Oh, the patrol patterns.
So
yeah.
this guy like patrols in a straight line back and forth. He's got 3 movements, so he'll go like boom, boom, and if he hits a wall, he'll turn around right and go again. And then this is their like what do they call it? Awareness.
Their awareness.
So he can see 6 in a straight line, and he'll see you, and then half of that in a 360. So if you're within 3 behind him,
he knows
he'll see you as well.
Correct.
And so like this guy, I was kind of moving him earlier. This guy will literally patrol back and forth. Like that for that guy specific, but they have different patrol patterns. Some have a dot and they just stand still,
Yep,
like at like an important, in an important room or something.
Just sits there.
Yeah,
Yeah, waiting for you to come out the door.
This guy will just go
Back and
and then turn around and go back.
Yep. So then after everybody patrols, you'll do the activate pings, and so there's a whole set of rules for where these pings are at, how much they move, and then what they do, and then depending on where they're at the end of that turn, you'll roll the ping die, and they're either gonna like boost their strength, increase threat, things like of that nature. And then once the round is over, you'll advance the threat equal to the number of players playing, and this can really kind of make things bad for you. So
Makes it harder.
It does
for
make it
sure.
a lot harder. Because one of the things it can do is reset the burn cycle. Because like I was saying, as we're using these chips and we're flipping all those other chips over, and you're reducing your actions each turn. Eventually, you're going to run out of chips to replace, and you're going to I only have 1 or 2 actions, and then you'll have to take a reset the burn cycle action, which is it's good and bad. Like you want to do it as least as you can because it is going to increase your threat. However, it is going to reset all of your chips and give you more actions and be able to do more stuff again. So it's pros and cons to it, but it's a lot. And so timing that also is important too, because you want to make sure that you get the most people to get as most actions as they can. But then you also, like I said, you don't want to do it too often because you don't want to increase your threat a ridiculous amount.
right.
Yeah, because we're steadily over here trying to add more of these colored chips so that we get more actions, like Bob said, and then trying to swap them out with some of these better actions like this. But every time we do our turn, we're rolling that degrade die, and boom, these are getting flipped over. Oh, can't get the better action out of that. Whoop, degraded again. So, yeah, as like Bob said, we're more and more the game is working against us to take these actions away from us.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Do you have any other comments that you wanted to say on game?
Boy, for gameplay, I don't know. Obviously, so depending on the mission, there'll be multiple levels of the building. So, like, actually, the one you see set up here is level 2. Like,
Second floor.
literally,
Correct,
we
second
start
floor.
on the first floor. We have completed our objective. Then we went up a staircase to a second floor, which changes the map layout and stuff, of course. So you're kind of working your way up through harder and harder security to get up to like the top floor of the building, right, to accomplish your goal. Let's see.
And to Dan's point, so like I was saying, each of the corporations has a stack of the mission cards, and it'll tell you what the length is: 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors, and then complexity 1, 2, or 3. So if you could do a 1 floor, 1 complexity, it's going to be your shortest, easiest type of mission that you can do. We chose a 3 floor with a low complexity to try to get through as much as we could.
Right. And then there was one other thing. Oh, and then there's like surveillance as well, to where the rooms kind of start like with these beads on because we don't know what's in the room.
Correct.
And when you first go in there, you roll the surveillance die, and that kind of tells you what you found in the room. So you might find some power cores, you might find some more security, you might find the mainframe. Yeah, we haven't even found one of those yet. But mainframe lets you hack all the systems or whatever.
The door could lock. The door could lock behind you, like it did to Mike.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, no, I'll get this door for you guys. Come on in."
Yeah.
Door
So every
closed down,
time,
like, oh no.
yeah. So every time you pull up to one of these doors, you'll pull one of these keypad cards out, and wow, this one's a blank.
Wow.
You just get in.
The door was unlocked.
That's
They left it
super lucky. But most of the time, what's happening is you've got these icons that you have to match. At the top, it tells you what floor you're on, and they get harder as you go up.
Yep.
Well, once you've actually gotten the matched icons to get inside of the door, you have an option to automatically move into the door, and that's where these security things come, or surveillance. We've been calling them security this whole time, but that's when you roll that die and decide, does the locked door behind you?
Right.
Does a guy spawn? So on and so forth.
Right.
Correct.
So that part's kind of an interesting little mini game that happens every time you pull up to one of these doors. The other thing I wanted to add to the gameplay part, which I thought was a pretty neat mechanic, is every single one of these characters, or bots as we are, has these chips underneath them.
It's an awareness
Now, we
chip.
can talk more about these brass minis during components, of course, because these are not with the base game. But when one of these figures goes within eyeball range of one of the guards, if he goes past them during his movement, he's going to leave his bottom chip there as a reminder that the security guard, that was the last place he saw our bot. So he will continue to pursue the last place he was seen, and then once he finds that spot and realizes, he's not there anymore, then that chip resets back to your bot.
Right, so the security is kind of like mindless drones, is like kind of how they act. Even though in the picture there's clearly people steering them.
But those are bots too.
Oh,
bots controlling bots.
So they're always just kind of a guy moves in here, and even if he sneaks in here, this was the last spot that the guard was able to see him. So again, he'll pursue the last visible location.
Yep.
I thought.
Yeah,
that
and
was
facing matters for the security people, so make sure you pay attention to that. And if you don't have the mini to do with that, they've got a little arc on the chip that shows their front facing.
Yeah, that's what that was right there. There's like an arrow usually or something.
Yep. So should we go into components then?
Definitely a good rundown of how the game works. But again, there's a lot, so
there is.
We're not going to explain.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it. Otherwise, we'll be here for an hour and a half just explaining the game.
Right. So next we're going to go into components overview for the game, and then we'll give a final thought and final rating as separate sections. So first, let's jump to components.
What's in the box?
Okay, guys, all I think we need to say is, are there any negatives?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just saying, it's easier to cover those.
Correct. Yes.
Go ahead.
So to me, like the first, because I played I had the teach at Origins. Mike and I played a game with a friend, and then we all played. And the very first thing that I wrote down after Mike and I played the first time was more and better player aids.
Right.
There is so much information, so many unique dice. So many different things that happen. It's like, yes, it has these little player aids, which are just the same. There's 4 of them. They're the same front and back. This first part's nice, right? It tells you the different types of icons on the chips.
Right. And what
it tells you what they're used for, when they're optimized, and what you get when they're optimized.
What kind of actions they are.
Okay, yeah, and that's fine. But
Great.
This turn overview thing, like,
terrible.
Yes, it already assumes you really know what you're doing already.
Right.
So like route power. Okay, so routing power. What is it? That's like there's like 4 or 5 things at least that can entail, right? So like having a better player aid somewhere where that is broken down would be nice.
What
Right.
kind of things can you do when you route power?
The problem is these are not player aids; they're like teachers' aids, right? This is Bob already fully knows the game. Now he just needs a reminder, and then he can explain everything as this goes through. But we needed player guides.
Yeah.
right? Like that's what we needed.
And so chip theory games, like I played Too Many Bones a few times, and like every single character has this big, huge board, like player aid thing that tells you how to play the character, suggested things. It's like something like that would be amazing in this game and help and make it flow and teach a lot easier, I feel.
Right.
And to Bob's point, let's look at what we printed because we didn't have it.
Yeah.
Boom. A whole sheet, which we had to ourselves went on BGG, found these, printed them out. I would want one for every player.
Better, still not great though.
Still not.
There's still some stuff that was missing off of there.
But I mean, every time the ping turn activates, there's a whole separate
slew of things that could happen.
Turn to page 35 and figure out what the ping's got to do on this turn.
They move 3 clockwise on the same level they're on, unless they hit a pin. And then if they don't have a pin, though, then they have to hit a stop sign.
They hit a stop sign.
If they don't hit a stop, then it's just like, and where is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of conditional things.
And then you also have to roll the ping die to determine what he does on his turn.
What does that do?
You need a whole reference card just for the ping turn and the ping die.
Yeah.
Because the ping die has icons that are nowhere else in the game. So you got to dig into it to find it.
And something that really annoyed me with that,
was-
and you know, this might just be how Chip Theory does their games and stuff, is that I get it. This network little mat here is beautiful. I really like the makeup of this, but there is plenty of room on the side here
Right
to
on there
have
would have
those
been fine.
icons.
Right.
I mean, literally, if you take like the player sheet and you just overlay it, and you're like, if they just put the text under the dice icons instead, it would literally fit here. And that's just them not doing that to keep the map pretty. And while I understand that, that is too much. There's too much information. Like even for a teacher to have to remember all that ping stuff is just too much, guys.
And even the surveillance die, which we mentioned, which you roll every time you go into a room, also has its own set of icons.
unique.
I would have liked a guide, a player aid just for the surveillance icon. So we're talking about a minimum of 4 additional player aids.
I think this is enough. I mean, once you roll each thing once, I do think the icons on the surveillance die are very intuitive. I mean, you understand. The only one that I
This
haven't
one is
seen is
weird.
that one. That's the
you
only
know what
one
that
I
is?
haven't- No.
That's an imperative card. Now, if you pull the imperative card out,
Oh yeah, it has that icon
it does
on
have
it.
that icon on there, right? But
I mean, Bob and I have played this twice, and still, each time we rolled the surveillance die and the ping die, we were into the
having to
rules.
look it up, yeah.
And for a company that spares 0 expense,
Right, John
on
Hammond.
to
production.
the point of let's give reviewers of our games free swords.
I would have liked a sword.
How about more player aids, please? Because this is in my opinion, difficult game to learn. There is a large barrier to entry, and you make that barrier taller, harder, and longer by not having these player aids that we think the game absolutely needs.
Yeah. Because speaking of not sparing expense, like, so when you open up a room and you unlock it, you put one of these little tabs, there's little holes in these player mats.
That is now a green keypad. If you can't see that in the
It's got the
camera,
little 9
it has,
little
it
buttons
has a
on there.
keypad like imprinted on it.
Yeah, so that means that door is unlocked. It comes with all these little containers to hold your bits, and they have lids that
And
screw
they
on.
screw
They
on.
screw
Those
on,
are
so
nice.
it keeps everything in place. You know, like I mean, the mat was extra, right?
Yeah,
so
but
that
let's
was
just
not
point out
included.
though, since you're mentioning it,
Yeah.
we currently have a mat with a mat on it.
Yes,
Covered
with
mats.
All neoprene. Yeah, the entire game is neoprene.
and
It is.
that's base game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all
base
base
game.
game except for this.
Well, yeah, sorry. The orange one is just
yeah.
extra to
So-
show you where everything goes.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, the base game itself, Chip Theory is selling on their website for $150. Bob, do you recall exactly how much the all-in for this game was with Matt and?
I don't. I got it at Origins.
It
I don't
was probably a
remember.
little over 300.
Yeah,
right?
I think with the brass minis, it was just over 3.
Yeah, and the brass minis, I do recall these were $79.
75, yeah.
Or $75, $79 on Chip Theory's website.
But
so,
well, I'll say with the neoprene mats, right? It does have a nice tray. It holds all the mats in there for the rooms.
How
very
are they
nicely.
numbered, or are they just named? Is that how you find them?
They are named.
Yeah, I knew they were
Correct.
named. I wasn't sure if that's how
And
it
then
asked you
size,
to
right.
look for them. Was like
Right.
find
No.
storage.
And so the other thing about components, 3 rule books. Okay.
and this is again to the point of why are there not player aids? The
Right.
3 rule books. The how to play is 42 pages.
Yep.
Just how to play.
Yep.
And the first time you read that, it's almost unavoidable to read the entire rule book
Yes.
to every player at the table before you even start. 2 plays, we had to do that both times.
Correct.
And I think it's unavoidable unless you've played this like a dozen times plus.
Right. Or by yourself and just really kind of,
Sure.
read through this, did it all, like, and really ingrained it in your brain. But the rule book does one of the things I really don't like, where I'd rather have the how to play and turn flow all together and concise in a spot, and then an example. Hey, here's a turn 1 or mission 1. We're going to walk you through all of this right now. Okay, but what I don't like is when, like, okay, here's a rule, and then here's an example of that rule. Here's a rule. So now when I'm going back and looking through, I'm having to sift through all of this playthrough, trying to find the rule that I need. And it's annoying to me. Like, I'd rather have those separated. And yes, they have a rules reference, which is nice, and it's a pretty good rules reference. But even while I'm learning the game, I just like to have a nice area where all the turn flow is together, and it shows you how everything goes. And then there's the example later on, right? And you can have in your spot with the turn flow, example on page 32. So, like, okay, let's see how that works. Go to page 32 and read the example if I need to. I shouldn't have to sift through it if I don't want to have to sift through it.
Yeah, and that's 143-page how to play book.
Right,
And it's
learn
a
to play.
43
43-page
rules
rules
reference
reference.
book.
Well, I was
Plus-
laughing about that while we were learning it because this is it's usually kind of like this, but I've never felt so much in a game. The rules reference is literally just the rule book, but it takes out all the pictures and the examples, but it tells you all the same information in like all the same order. Like it feels like, again, it's not actually, it is like alphabetical kind of. And everything.
It's more alphabetical.
But I have never so much felt like this is just the same book twice. Like, because there's so much information.
Yeah. Right. They have one organized by alphabetical, one organized by learn to play
order.
with all the players. So you need like kind of a mix of the two, maybe.
And they're both 43 pages.
Which is why it was the same book twice.
And the scenario book, or as they call it,
the floor plan
book. How many pages is that?
It's only 14, but it's literally just like the different corporations
and the
floors.
I don't mind. I just want to bring it up because more of that just means more replayability, which is great.
Correct.
So I just wanted to be full disclosure. How much reading is there? And it is close to 100 pages of reading in this game.
Yep. All right, Dan, do the cool thing.
Well, I mean, also, they probably saw us doing it earlier because we were moving around, but the whole reason that Bob wanted these probably too is because they're nice, brass things, whatever, but every piece is magnetic. Now, I mean, chip theory.
Very cool.
How come I can't pick up 2 stronger magnets next time, maybe? Except
don't have your wallet nearby.
Stop ripping us off is all I'm trying to say.
These are upgraded bits, but we'll show us over here. These brass minis. So this is heavy, right?
Yeah.
They're brass, but they're all named, so you're not like trying to figure out who's who. All their names are on there, so it's easy.
Right.
They're tough to get out.
This one's guard.
Yes.
This one's guard.
This one's a guard. They are hard to kind of get out of there, so you have to kind of like poke them up through the bottom.
Yeah.
But that's not.
I kept handing them to Dan because I struggled to get them out of there without
Mike was
thinking,
on the struggle
I'm
bus.
going to break these.
Yeah.
It comes with that card holder over there, which is fantastic.
Very neat as well.
All of the places are labeled. Right, so tell you what card goes in what slots. They're all shaped accordingly, and then you're just pulling one out. You're looking at it. You're putting it in the back, and then it's got a spot in the back where this is your captain card that you're using for the mission that you're doing. He goes in the back like that. Fantastic, great organization, holds everything up, easy to access. You don't have to have all these piles of cards out everywhere. I love it.
And a spot for it.
It felt like when we first started, I was worried that there wasn't going to be enough dice, but that never really happened. There were a couple times where we had passed a couple.
Correct.
But it really wasn't that bad, especially once you start upgrading.
Yeah,
because once people start getting yellow and red dice, there's not that many of those anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you won't have that many is what I mean anyway. So as you only need, like, if each player only needs 3 blue, 2 yellow, and a red, well, there's plenty for that.
Sure.
So as you start getting upgraded, there is enough dice. It's just at the beginning when everyone has blue dice, there's going to be a little bit of passing, which it kind of felt like if they had just included, like, 4 more dice, it'd be enough.
It'd be okay. But they want you to buy the dice pack.
Right.
Yeah, and you can buy more of them on the chip theory.
Sure.
Yeah,
they literally do
a
a
dice
worried
pack.
it was going to, because that's a
serious.
feeling in a lot of games where you're like, man, why aren't there
Couple
more dice?
more
And I
dice.
didn't feel that as much in this like I thought I would. It's there, but it's minuscule.
Yep.
Another
I love the pegs
point,
and mats.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was going to mention the pins and the mats. I have a love-hate relationship with these, and I'll tell you why. It's cool that these go in here. But, these you have to move a whole bunch and stick them in here. And I don't know if it's just me being anal about this, but, like, sometimes they'll pop out when you don't want them to. Like, the peg that goes in there is so short that sometimes they don't sit in there quite right, or they bump out easily. And I didn't love this necessarily. It's a neat idea because there's these little holes, and, they'll kind of stay put, but I don't know. I thought that system was okay here, but I don't know. Love-hate relationship with that for me. And the ones up here we talked about was extremely redundant.
Yeah.
Hey, these chips here mark how many actions you have. So also go ahead and put one of these to mark how many actions you have. I don't need
But I thought about that a little
things.
bit. When you reset the burn cycle, though, you clear all the chips off. So either you have to remember how many you have.
Sure.
Right? Or
Well, you'd have to remember for about 8 seconds.
It's a small.
Yes. True.
It's a small.
However, I'm trying to remember a lot of other stuff. Okay?
I mean, unless you're a goldfish, I don't think remembering this part is an
Remembering
issue.
what?
Yeah, exactly.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, the components are amazing,
They
but
are.
there are some vital things missing from this game that can improve the experience for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a game that, like, if I had, I would make custom homemade. Like, I wouldn't even print off. That's clearly just a
It's
PDF of
okay.
the rule book.
But
Yeah,
it's the
well,
best we have.
It's
and
got a breakdown of all the die
Yeah,
faces.
for sure.
And that's
I'm
one
just
of the things
saying
that is needed.
I would want to do what I did for Dune, which is like a customized, player aid in a certain order.
You could even have like one of these player aids. That's the corporation's turn, so it's got a breakdown of the security units and how they activate. On the backside, how the ping thing and every activate, and then all the faces of the ping die.
Right.
And then whoever's controlling the corporation person can.
That would
take
totally
care of that.
fit on
Boom,
there.
Fixed.
Yep. But I don't know. I think that's probably it.
That's probably good for components.
So next, we're going to give kind of our overall final thoughts of the game, and then we'll jump into a final rating after that. Final thoughts! So, final thoughts. I think I'll go first. Sure. Because I know we're going to have some extremes here of owner and of Mike. So overall final thoughts. I don't think this game is difficult to learn personally. I do think it's very unintuitive, and that makes it feel difficult to learn. And I totally understand that. There's a lot of times where I would have to ask, sorry, Bob, explain degrading one more time, because I don't like, for some reason, it's just a simple sentence. Oh, it's degraded. You skip that action and then you can replace it later. Like, that's it. But for some reason, we would just be doing so much and I'd be doing all this stuff and then I'd be like, okay, sorry. And then Bob's like, okay, 2 degrades. And I'm like, okay, explain that one more time. Right. And so there's just a lot of things going on that it's counterintuitive only because you've never seen anything like it before. Yeah. You know, and so having to deal with these new systems, with the burn cycle, with this network pinging system, these are things that I have never done before in a game. And so that makes them feel counterintuitive to me, because I'm learning something from complete scratch. You know, I can learn a difficult game, you know, when I first played like Game of Thrones and stuff, but I'm like, okay, so this works like this other game, but, you know, slightly different. And this works like this other game, but slightly different. But this is like, I don't even know what this is. This is...
Burn cycle works like burn cycle.
Right.
Yeah. It's not a lot like it.
It's like action selection during action rounds with action replacement with semi-programming. I mean, it's insane when you describe. That's just how the action economy works. Is that sense? And so there's a lot going on. When it comes to the actual board itself, here you're just moving, which is just, I'm taking a move action. You roll your dice. That's how many movement points you get, right? And you know, if you have it optimized, there's different benefits, but they were pretty simple to understand. But like, it's just, okay, I'm moving. I am interacting with the door. I'm interacting with the console. I am picking up this cash. I am hitting this guard. That's super basic. Like when you actually, like, what you're doing on the board.
Yeah. Right.
It's how you manipulate that, which is why for my first game, I purposely played processor here, because when Bob was setting up the game and teaching the game, I said, okay, I think the most interesting, like, weird part of the game that's going to take a lot of getting used to is going to be that burn cycle. So I'm going to play the guy who constantly manipulates the burn cycle, and I'm going to force myself to learn that, but also I feel like that will be really beneficial to the team.
And
constantly you know, interacting with the burn cycle and swapping it out whenever I want and just taking action and saying, and that's probably why also that I had to keep asking about what does optimized mean and what does degraded mean, because my character could ignore that. I could just say, no, I'm going to do this action, it's optimized. So I didn't have to listen to that rule as much as other people. But I thoroughly loved this game. I love co-ops. If anything, I wish it was more difficult, but we purposely played complexity 1.
Correct.
Right. So I would definitely jump up to complexity 2 and see what's going on. Because if anything, it felt like we were just kind of breezing through it. Like level 1 took a long time, but it's not like we
didn't feel like we were in danger.
Yeah, it didn't feel like we were in danger. And then level 2 was super easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it was just because of spawn locations.
Yeah,
and
because
stuff,
we were in different areas. When we spawned up there, so it was like
spread out, finished it, went back.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And again, the fact that the guards feel mindless makes them feel like not a threat. But again, I just think upping complexity is going to make them a threat, right? So the network was really cool. Again, this theme just does a lot for me. This cyborg hacking futuristic thing that we're doing, where we're hacking the network and doing like a heist where we're breaking into the building and sneaking around. I really liked Mike's character was all about, he could just ignore security, or like he could just walk in a room and just say I'm hidden. Like he was like a stealth character kind of. Like I said, I was the burn cycle, and then you were like a hacker.
I was the hacker that accessed. Oh, I guess I did 1 terminal at the end there. Yeah. The first
floor
floor I got
doors,
0
dude.
terminals apparently. Yeah.
But yeah, so again, without going just too into it, because we could talk about this game for ever. I mean, leave a comment if you want a certain gameplay element explained to you,
Yeah,
how a
for
certain
sure.
thing works. I mean, you know, we can go over dice upgrades and stuff in the comments if you guys want to know those things, but it's just too much to talk about for right now without giving the basic overview, you know? So overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I love co-ops. I think I said while we were playing it, and I know I'm going to get total crap for this, but this was a personal explanation for me to get in the right mindset, was I said this kind of felt like the Twilight Imperium of cooperative games, where it's big, it's epic, I mean, it is a 3-hour game. We can probably play faster than that. I mean, it depends how many levels you're playing, I guess.
Yeah, it depends how many levels, and it also depends on familiarity.
Sure, but yeah, I still think it's probably a 2.5-hour game. You know, just with what the game's offering and everything, and it's a big boy for a co-op for sure. But I like that. I love that. I mean, Robinson Crusoe I've loved for a long time, which I know not everyone I know does, but it doesn't. It's not like it feels like a huge epic. It's just really hard,
right?
You know, and this feels like this big grandiose game where you're just in this other world for 2.5 hours to me, and I like that a lot. But yeah, that's me. I think we should do you next, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. It is a lot to chew on, right? There's a lot going on, a lot of
meat on the bone.
A lot of meat on the bone. Yes, that is but this network stuff is my favorite part of the game.
Yes.
I love the hacking in, the moving in, and trying to make sure during my first part of my turn that I've got the burn cycle kind of lined up, because there will be like network cards as well that you could get that will give you bonuses as you're going around. If you manage to land on the right spot, you'll earn extra stuff as well. I really like doing that. Planning with each other and trying to figure out how to do things, making sure you have the right kind of team for the mission you're doing. Because there are some missions where there'll be like more guards and stuff, so you want to make sure you get somebody who's actually good at combat. Because my hacker had a really hard time trying to destroy this one bot that was just in his way like the whole time, and all I could do was enough damage to stun it and knock it down. At least then it didn't hit me. But then Mike was able to get by and get away, so that was good.
Stealth
at least.
boy.
Yeah, stealth boy was like. But yeah, like Dan says, I kind of agree where it is one of those games where, like, you know what, we're going to play this tonight. And it's going to be what you're going to do for the most of the night. But you're going to it felt immersive. I felt like I was this robot in this world, and I'm going and I'm exploring and I'm doing these things and I'm hacking into the keypads and I'm earning upgrades. And, I'm like avoiding the guards and trying to download stuff on the terminal and get my command module up to the executor office so we can download all the information we need to get. Like, I felt like I was doing those things. It didn't really feel arbitrary at all. So I enjoyed that. It is not very intuitive, like Dan was saying, because like a lot of games that are super complex have like really strong iconography, and it kind of makes things move and work the way you think it does. And you can kind of see little iconography on here, but like it's so small, it's a little blurry because of like printing on neoprene, that it makes it like it's tough. It's tough to read, and it's not.
Yeah, these
super
2 symbols, 3 symbols
look almost alike.
If you're sitting over here, look
Correct.
identical.
Right. My thing with that, jumping on what you just said, was you said, when you're talking about the counterintuitive thing, your iconography in other games. And yeah, my thing is here, again, it just doesn't explain itself as well. Like so in this game, like once you know that this outside layer is upping your die, sure, that's upping your die. Mm-hmm. Why? What is the in-universe reason for that? Because that'll make it easier for you to remember.
Correct.
And then once you move to the second level, or the third level here gets you power. Why? There's nothing about why. It's just that feels arbitrary. We'll get to third level if you want power. And that makes it harder to remember because you're not remembering that when you get to the third power, well, the third power is the energy core of the network, and that's why you're going to, it's just level 3 is power.
Yeah, that's a great point, because anytime a game provides a thematic reason for why that is the way it is, it's easier to learn, and it improves the experience.
I would like to give you a quick thematic rundown of why it is the way it is. So you're on the outside security level. You are increasing your ping strength, right? You're on the outskirts. You're hacking in and basically getting familiarity with the system. Once you get the first layer in, you're going to start downgrading the threat of the company, because you want to start bringing the alarms down. And then you go in one more. Now you're starting to bleed the power from the corporation itself, right? And then once you're on the inside, you get access to all of them.
Now, Bob,
So
that is an excellent description. Yeah. I would love that description.
Where does the
from
game
Chip
tell
Theory
us
games.
that?
Sure.
Right.
That actually makes a ton of sense, Bob.
Yeah.
And had that been in the
book,
this would be more intuitive.
Right.
Even though this is the most intuitive part of the game, there are still... Oh, wait, what's that mean again?
Correct. Yeah, there's still a lot of that, yes.
And rolling this die, and then what's that mean again?
Didn't mean to interrupt, but I just
Sure.
you were mentioning that specifically.
No. I like the trays. I would have liked an extra tray because there's just not quite enough room for the chips to be organized. They all fit in there for storage. That's fine. But like it's nice to have like all the 1s, 2s, and 3s of the guards, and then I'm gonna have like the people and like the extra burn cycle chips in one. It's just like an extra one would have been nice, but there's a lot in here already. They do try to give you a mat. Did I not keep that up here? I didn't. Oh, here it is. Well, it's one of those ones with the buttons on the side, right?
Oh,
It
yeah,
snaps,
yeah.
and it's kind of more of a bowl.
I
than flat.
hate those.
Didn't like it. These lids for the chips actually worked really well, and you can actually have it sitting over a card, so you can still read your card underneath there and roll your dice in there. And it kept it confined.
that dice roller you were using is what came with this?
Yeah, it was just
the
something
one with the buttons or this.
The
buttons
yeah.
one, yeah. I think when I bought it at Origins, they gave it to me. I don't know if it's actually included in the box itself. So don't quote me that it comes in the box because I don't know if it does or not. But Chip Theory's got them all over.
You're
the
better
place.
without it anyway.
Yeah, you're better without it.
No,
it comes with these in the box. Use these.
Those are your best.
Yeah.
dice rollers.
Yeah.
I hate dice trays that don't have a flat bottom.
Right.
They are terrible, guys.
Yeah.
Do you understand how dice roll? Like anyway.
They just sit flat. Yeah.
If it's sitting on its side.
But no, but like I said, so I did enjoy it. I love that. I'm glad I got the minis. I know they're expensive, but to me, like I just think that looks super cool. Like it's just got a cool effect. It makes it feel more immersive to me, and like I did feel immersed in this world. And I really enjoyed it. I want to play it some more. Like I said, Dan said, we're gonna have to pick a night, and just that's what we're probably gonna be playing for the most of the night. But worth it, difficult co-ops.
Sure. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, so I'll start with the pros because I'll overlap with you guys quite a bit. The most obvious one is components, and I just don't want to dive into that more than we already have. They're amazing. Yep. But I do think the brass minis improve the experience tremendously.
Yes.
Especially because they pull the chip along, and it just gives a presence. When I was just playing with chips, I don't know. It wasn't as immersive to me by playing with just the chips. I would absolutely want to play with brass minis.
Which is why they're kind that they made it an option.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend that extra money, but if it actually improves your gameplay that much,
it does.
Yeah.
I would definitely suggest the brass mini. So I definitely wanted to touch on that. My two favorite parts of the game, again, this part of the game I think was pretty great. I really like this is kind of its own little mini game puzzle where you're trying to get further in, and then by the time you get to the bottom, knock his little red ones back out. I thought that part of the game was very interesting. The other part I liked quite a bit, which in the first game it was really difficult to figure out how to manipulate the burn cycle. Yeah. But when you understand that you're sitting here trying to figure out the order in which actions you're going to be doing things. So, for example, hey, I need to get closer to this cache over here, which means I'm going to have to move my guy to a door. So I want to have an optimized move chip here. That's my first action. Bam. Now, if I can also get a optimized keypad hack chip here, then it's going to be even easier to hack that door. And then I'm going to move inside, and then I've got a terminal. So I want one of those blue chips to be over here so that my third action can make it even easier to hack into this terminal. That planning is very interesting. And I think this system at first, I was like, what is going on with this system? But like halfway through the second playthrough, this aspect of the game really started to shine for me. And I thought the way this was done, while not thematic whatsoever, I thought was a fascinating system. So a lot of credit to this burn cycle system.
That's why they named the game after it.
Because not only does it affect your actions in the real world, you do, 3 actions, and then, oh, crap, that one's degraded, so I only get 3 out of 4 actions. But I've got opportunities to flip this over and get back to 4 actions and maximize the burn cycle. But then it resets. Now I'm going to use these same chips in here, and I'm like, okay, well, the very first one, if I'm starting up here, is going to get me to purple. So, well, I got to stop there no matter what. But then this blue one, okay, well, I could only go 1 space if I go here, but I go 2 spaces if I go here. And using these chips to maximize turns in the world and maximize how far you can get in the ping turn, fascinating concept. I really enjoyed that. the replayability of this game, this is a massive factor for me. There's a ton of replayability in this game. How many scenarios are there? I mean, we said there was, what, a 14-page book?
There are, it looks like three
Three
different corporations.
And there were like
and
six
there's, and there's all these missions. These are all different missions.
Different missions. Looks like 20 plus to me.
Correct. And then there is, I have an expansion at home of corporations and missions, but I have not added that.
And there's probably 16 different bots you can play that all play completely different. I think that's pretty neat as well. So that's everything that I liked about this. I have complaints about this game that the other guys would not. If I am to play a 3-hour epic game with a large barrier to entry, this is not the game that I would want to be playing. If I'm going to play a 3-hour epic game, I would want the game to feel epic. And this does not provide an epic experience, in my opinion. There's just parts of this that are very clunky and difficult to sink into the brain. I mean, unless you're a sponge with a photographic memory, there is a lot of, okay, roll this die. Now what happens? Shoot. Flip through the book. Where is that? Oh, it's on this page. Oh, okay, this happens. All right, ping turn. Roll the ping die. What did that do? Shoot. Okay, let's flip back into the rule book. And I'm not saying that is a complaint of our teachers here at all. Again, unless you're a sponge with a photographic memory, you're going to do that for minimum 2 games.
Sure.
In fact, I could say you could play this half a dozen times, and there's still going to be instances where you need the book. That hurts the experience a lot for me. Player aids. More player aids would fix that a lot.
Look, there's even a blank spot on the mat here. Could have gone right there.
Anywhere. Or notes on here. More notes on here.
Yeah.
But when you continually have to go back to the rule book because of how counterintuitive some of these systems are, that, again, it just hurts the experience for me a lot. This game doesn't feel epic. I kind of feel like I'm sort of trudging around. And while these systems are neat, the experience of what we're doing on the board is not a grand thing that we're doing. We're just kind of sneaking away from these guards and hoping to hack these terminals and grab these caches.
Did you miss the part where I smashed through the wall?
That was pretty cool. Hey, I mean, cool. But so while I just feel like I am not the only person that's out there that appreciates elegance in games and rules that are written well enough that I don't have to keep going back to the rule book to relearn them every time I play it. And it would take multiple plays to get to a point where you're not consistently reading that rule book. I mean, there was a massive amount of time in the first and second time we played this. Now, sure, there was downtime. We were chatting with people. We were, hey, is that how this works? But it took a long time to get this set up. We had to read the entire how to play book the first time.
The first time, sure.
And most of it the second time.
I just don't think we had to do that the second time. It's because
we had the time to do it, so we did.
The first time we played this was like a month ago, and I felt like without going through that, I would have been clueless again. I needed almost that entire system read back to me again because most of it leaked out of my brain. And if the rules are more intuitive, I don't feel like as much leaks out of the brain, and I need that refresh. So again, my biggest con to this game is
your brain.
For the price point. I'm not the only one that feels that way.
For sure.
And while I'm a minority in this group here, there are going to be other people that won't like that it took 5 hours to learn, set up, play, and we stopped short 2 out of 3 floors. So we actually didn't finish our experience. But again, there were parts of that 5 hours that was us goofing around. Still, call it 4 hours. 4 hours to reread the book, play it, and get to the end is a lot for a game that it provides neat systems, but not the experience I'm looking for. And I think other people could agree with that con of just constantly having to be back in the rule book. Like, I'd rather just, hey, I know the rules, and maybe once every, at the end of a round have to check something. But this was constant going back to those rule books. So the counterintuitiveness hurts this quite a bit for me.
Sure. Okay, with that final thought, we're going to jump into our actual ratings for the game.
I had a really good time.
Okay, I know mine, so I'll just go ahead and go first because I don't know if you guys need some time to think and everything. But so for me, I'm landing on an 8.5. It has flaws, and those flaws bring it down for me. At the end of the day, I had an insane amount of fun with this game. And Bob timed our playthrough, the second play, and I think it was like just over 3 hours.
Yes.
And now, like Mike said, we did not finish, but the second floor went so fast, and we knew what our objective was on the third floor. I think we had another 30 minutes maybe.
Yeah, once we set the third floor up. Yes.
Right. And it's just that the first floor was our learning floor and our kind of goof off floor. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And it took a really long time. I mean, like 2 of the 3 hours at least was the first floor.
Correct.
So I just don't, I don't know. I don't think that I think that saying, if you told someone it took us 5 hours to play Burncycle and we didn't finish, I'd call you a liar. That's all I'm saying. That is not you playing for 5 hours. That the game does not take that long. I think it's a long game, but I'm sitting at like 2.5. But yeah, I'm landing on an 8.5. The knocks that I have on this game bring it down from a higher rating, but I still loved it. I can't wait to play again. Literally cannot wait. I don't know who wants to go next. Mike.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously I had a much longer section of cons than I did pros. I'm growing to appreciate more co-op games, and even though I've said previously I don't like them as much, I think it's just that I haven't been exposed to as many. I don't think this is a bad game, and I don't think it's a bad experience. I just feel like the time, money, and rule commitment to it brings it down a lot. You're going to spend a lot of money on a game that you'll play maybe once a year. And for me, if I'm going to spend 3 to 4 hours playing a game, or 2.5 to 3.5 hours to play a game, this is not the game I would choose. So that being said, my rating scale is, hey, if it's an 8 or higher, I like this game so much that I want to buy it and go put it in my collection. If it's a 7 or higher, hey, I think this is a good game that people will appreciate, even though it may not be for me. Any lower than that, and I wouldn't even recommend it to people. I'm coming in at a 7 here because I think there are neat mechanisms. And if you appreciate the depth to this and are not afraid of the rule barrier to entry, you can have a good time with this game. I'm not going to go under a 7 because even though I think there will be people that won't like this, that won't appreciate it as much as you guys do, that being me, I'm not going to go under a 7 because it's not my preference. I think it's a good game with good systems, and a lot of people will enjoy it, so I'm falling at a 7.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Yeah, so I liked it. I didn't like it quite as much as Dan. I do enjoy co-ops. I agree with Mike that if I'm going to play like a 3-hour game, there are other 3-hour games I would rather play. But if somebody wanted to play Burncycle, Dan's like, hey, you want to get Burncycle? I was like, yeah, I would totally love to get to this at the table again. That's why I'm going to fall on a 7.5 because that's right about where that's at, where it's a game where I enjoy enough to anybody wants to play it. Yes, absolutely, I would love to play that. I'm glad I have it. I'm glad I got the minis because I think that definitely adds to my experience. Is this game for everybody? No. You like they have said, you got to be able to wrap your head around all of these rules, and you got to have the time commitment to be able to play.
And I think being interested in the theme will go a long way
yes,
too.
Yes, if you like the bots and the theme and whatnot, then yeah, that because it does do a good job, I think, of immersing you in that, especially with the minis and the way everything works. I like how that goes. So if you take all of our scores and you average them together, 7.7.
Okay, 7.7. I think that is a fair score for Burncycle. It falls in that above our recommendation rating, but not like too high. Big barrier of entry, you know. So yeah, I think 7.7 is a pretty good score. What do you guys think? What would you guys rate it? Any of you that have played it, and if you haven't played it, this is always interesting to me. Which way did you swing after hearing this review? If you haven't played it and you were interested, did this make you less interested in the game or more interested in the game after seeing it set up and explained like this? That always really interests me. But anyway, we've gone on long enough about Burncycle, guys. This was the title of this one might be in-depth review because there was just so much to talk about here. But anyway, from the Board Game Rundown, I've been Dan.
I was Bob.
I was Mike.
And this was Burncycle. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.